morning and greetings from Sweden, or actually from the flight here to Tromsø. My name is Carina Sammeli and I am the mayor of Luleå, a city in northern Sweden. The Arctic is a region where people live and work. The societies and communities here and the people who live here are the hearts of the Arctic. We have challenges here, but we also have possibilities. Our cities, towns and villages are all unique and adds to a diversity, but we also have common challenges that we are cooperating to solve. As a part of the Arctic Mayors Forum, I get to work together with other local elected leaders from communities around the Arctic. We need to be a voice of the local issues in the Arctic and be a complement to the national governance level who are discussing the same issues. The Arctic Mayors Forums gives me an opportunity to talk to others in the same situation as I am, to solve the same problems, the same challenges, and learn from each other's experiences. Luleå is the biggest city in northern Sweden, an area with a lot of minerals, but also renewable energy. And right now, we are going through a green transition when the industries, the heavy, dirty industries, are leaving fossil fuels and going into a new green era. That means that massive investments are doing in green steel, green fertilizers, green battery industries in the northern Sweden, and we are a center of that. To be able to develop our companies and also to make the industry's green transition, we need a lot of people to move to our area. And that means that we, as Luleå municipality, needs to work with the attraction of our community. How do we get people to live here? How do we get people who live here today to flourish and grow in our societies? And that is what I would like to discuss and learn more and get influences on this seminar. And I wish you all an interesting seminar with the dialogues of the other mayor in this seminar.
Mayors today who exemplify the trust, passion, and vision required to lead Arctic cities into a bright, but also at times uncertain future. Later this evening, many of you will join us and the Norwegian Foreign Minister at the City Hall here in Tromsø to officially open our new secretariat. It's wonderful to be in this city and have a permanent presence here in the Arctic. This panel discussion is an opportunity for you, our friends in the Arctic, to get to know us better. So as we're introducing our cities and starting the discussion, I encourage you to jot down some notes, and I will endeavor to take some questions from the audience, and also from those of you online. Welcome. So I now have the honor of introducing 6 of our mayors. We currently have 14 members, but 6 of them are actually here with us today. First, I'd like to introduce Ida Maria Pinerad. Ida is the mayor of Bodø and also the chair of the Arctic Mayors Forum. Next, we have Ulla Kirkese Vainio, mayor of Rovaniemi. Then we will have Mary-Louise Ronmark, mayor of Umeå and also a member of the EU Committee of Regions. Then I'm happy to introduce a familiar face here in Tromsø, Mayor Gunnar Wilhelmsen. And then we will have Mirja Vekapera from the City of Oulu City Board and also a member of the EU Committee of Regions. And last, but certainly not least, please welcome Anne Hansen, Mayor of Qeqertalik, and also Nivi is going to help her today with simultaneous translation. Okay, let's get the discussion going. So the the way we're going to run this session is I'm going to ask a question to each of our mayors, and they're going to have a few minutes to respond to that question and also say a little bit about what's special about their city and their experience as mayor. So let's start with you, Ida. As chair of the Arctic Mayors Forum, what is the main message you're hoping to get out to citizens of Arctic municipalities about the importance of pan-Arctic cooperation at the local level?
My main issue is that bringing people together is very important when we are developing the Arctic as a part and a very important part of the world. And my hope and engagement for the Arctic Mayors Forum is that we who live in this vulnerable region of the Arctic also take part in the dialogue and discussions about the Arctic. We know that important debates and discussions about the climate change, for example, the green shift, infrastructure, geopolitics, and indigenous people will influence how we can live our lives in this region. And we therefore need to take part in the ongoing dialogue about the Arctic. By cooperation at a local level, we can have knowledge about each other and between the cities and municipalities, and we can have more knowledge about our common opportunities and threats in the Arctic, and how we can work together. And we can also bring the local perspective, which is a very important perspective, in the very important ongoing discussion about the Arctic. And not at least, it's my hope that this also can bring people living in the Arctic closer together. The distances might be big, but we have so many similar things that we share. And I think at the local level we can discuss that very close to the people living here. I'm happy for the establishment of the Arctic Mayors Forum. And we have, for example, during the pandemic, being in contact and seeing how it is to work with the pandemic, far from the headquarters and from the big cities, but still with our special infrastructure in the Arctic. So living in the Arctic is also being active in the Arctic, and I hope that we being together, talking together, bringing people together, also can make the living in the Arctic better for the future.
Thanks. I think you bring up some really interesting points there, not least that mayors working together can coalesce around issues that we can then bring to governance tables and make sure that there is a conversation happening at the national level, but that the national desire to talk about community and local things is actually being informed by things happening at the local level. So it's a bit of an bottom-up and top-down approach. So it's a very special forum in that respect. So thank you for that. Ulla Kirsika, Rovaniemi is the second largest city in northern Finland. And I'm interested to know, what are some of the daily challenges that you face as mayor in a city where we are in both politically and environmentally unstable times?
Thank you. Maybe the first I can say that we have had a quite huge change in Finland at the beginning of this year, when social and healthcare sector was transferred from welfare regions. So from our normal duties as city authorities has changed a lot. And right now we have the situation that we don't exactly what kind of year budget we have, for example, and what this whole change means as a whole. This is the big change. And of course our geopolitical situation has changed so much, and we are the military base, so we waiting for that. This NATO membership will change a lot our region, because we have a large training center area in our area, and that might change a lot also our dynamic as a city, because we waiting for that our new visitors will need different city services, hotels, restaurants, and etc. And third, I can mention that because of climate change, the spring flood situation is quite difficult every year in Rovaniemi, because we have a too big river and we are on the cross point, and it's every spring when we afraid a little bit what will happen, and depending of raining and how snow smell and that kind of things, it's always a little bit difficult. And maybe the fourth thing what I want to mention is we have also in Finland debate who can decide the using of forest. And this is, I think, that a new very big question right now in Finland.
Thanks. Thanks for that. So really on a daily basis, you're dealing with very big issues informed by a lot of international, national, but then at the same time, you have to really think about the local needs, for example, with flooding rivers or your infrastructure being in danger. So you're balancing a lot. You mentioned climate change, and this is something I wanted to discuss with you, Mary Louise, that climate change, it is urgent, and it is a cross-cutting challenge across Arctic communities, whether in the North American Arctic, the Scandinavian Arctic, or the Russian Arctic. And Umeå was recently named one of the 100 cities to participate in the EU mission for climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. It's 2023 now. So tell me more about your plans to achieve this goal.
It's necessary to work very tight about this question, because there is no limit in year of what we are talking about to be the climate neutral city. And when you are talking about changes all over the world, and you are talking about the parliament, what they are doing, the European level and so on, you have to start where you are. And we are all mayors sitting here, and we know what to do if we know that. So we are a city with the universities, and we are a city which has been working very closely with trust, together with the people living in our city. When we were the European Capital of Culture 2014, before that, we said co-creation, co-creation, and trust. That is what we have to work with, because you can't do it as a mayor by your own. You can't do it by your own to make all these changes. You have to have the people around you. And being very close to innovation, being close to researching and so on, you can step forward. So we have been making a lot of changes. But if you are making changes and you have the fight with the people living there, that is a big problem. So you have to have this discussion all the time. So you were talking about what is happening in Rovaniemi now and what is happening around the world. And we know we have 200 states which are democratic states, and they are getting less and less. And the trust for the democracy is getting less and less, and for the politics. So we have to work very closely about that to fulfill what we have to do about the climate change. And when we are talking about the climate change, we also have to have a discussion of what is the climate change between the people.
Right.
So I open up, just be open. Trust is what you have to work with. Otherwise, we will go down again.
Thanks. That's a really strong message about trust and staying open and continuing to have conversations about the really difficult things that are on the agenda, but also to allow space for there to be discussion about the opportunities in the Arctic. So thank you for that. I also want to come back to a couple of you on the panel about European culture cities. I know there's a few folks on the panel who can say a little bit more about that. But I want to bring the discussion back here to Tromsø. So Gunnar, thank you for welcoming us all here to Arctic Frontiers. You and your staff at Tromsø Kommune have been really instrumental in the creation of Arctic Mayors Forum, and I'm extremely grateful for you and for them. But I would be interested to know how you think we can address another one of your priorities within the AMF, and that is the engagement of young leaders in local issues.
Yes, but first I think Arctic Mayors Forum is more special for this region because of the geopolitical situation. We have always from Tromsø said to south. Now we can see east-west. Finland and Sweden is going into NATO. And I think we're going to do more cooperation together. And we also have a discussion when I was in Reykjavik about how we can do business together. And I think that's also a possibility. And for Finland, it's, well, how they going to do with the military to the coast? Will they come to Tromsø? Or how they going to do that? Will it be the railway to Tromsø from Finland? And so on. So we have a new discussion in this area. And I think that is very important. And Tromsø wants, the last government and the government now says that northern part of Norway is important for the future. So for the youth, yes, it was important for Arctic Mayors Forum, and it was funded by our government, and we had the headquarters, you in charge in Tromsø. It's important for us. We have the Arctic Council in Tromsø, Arctic Economic Council in Tromsø headquarters. So for the youth, I think with this headquarters, we can do a different. First, we have in Tromsø, we had a youth council. They meeting our municipality council twice a year, I think. And they can, for them, it's mental health is important. It's culture is important. It's happening, an event for the youth is important for them. So we have to discuss what sort of thing they have for the future. Last year we were in Brussels with the Youth Council to try to competition to get the youth capital for 2025. We don't get the position, but we try again for 26. Lviv in Ukraine get it in 25, so that was okay for us. And for the future, I think maybe next year at the Arctic Frontiers, we should invite the youth leaders from all of the 14 cities to have a roundtable conference in Tromsø to discuss how the future is going to be. And I could work for my government to try to found it. So it's possible to get all the youth to Tromsø. So I think we have, every time when we have a new idea, we have to think, what will the youth think about the idea? And we try to be exactly in Tromsø to do it every time. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I like this. I like it when Gunnar gives me jobs for next year already. So that's good. I hope someone's taking notes. But I totally agree, and I think that we've mainstreamed climate change and climate discussions into everything that we do in the Arctic, and I think we're moving towards mainstreaming youth and young Arctic leaders into our discussions. So I do note that we don't have any young people with us on the stage today, but for those of you in the audience or online, please send in your questions, because we'd love to hear from you. I'm going to turn to you, Mirja, and I know that you are a very active member in the Committee of Regions, and that you recently were the rapporteur for a report about why local communities are central to the implementation of the renewed EU Arctic policy released in 2021. I'd like to hear more about your work and just your views on how the Arctic Mayors Forum can play a role in implementing EU Arctic policy moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. It's great to underline how important the Arctic area, Arctic people are in EU, and that's why I did my report to show the opportunities, but also the problems what we are facing in the Arctic area. First of all, we must do everything, to ensure that the Arctic remains safe, stable, and peaceful. And that's something what belongs to this time of our life when the geopolitical situation has changed dramatically. We need more EU in the Arctic, but the others around as well. More Arctic in the EU table. But we are the people who have to raise the questions and opportunities as well. But also we have to remain that there is no one Arctic area, an Arctic place where we are living. There are many types of Arctic regions with different needs. Regions with poor nature, raw materials, and very few people. And also regions like European High North with developed cities and regions, universities, high innovation potential, and the world's smartest green industry. So there is a lot of different places and needs as well. But we have to recognize also that the cities and municipalities are the key players in Arctic area. Local people, our local people are sitting in driver's seats. Like Maria Louise just said, that the local people's trust have to be in our hands. We all know that there is huge investments coming in the near future in the Arctic area, more than 160 billion euros. And the cities and companies are investing to sustainable urban infrastructure, transport, digitalization, waste management, the circular economy, and energy efficiency solutions. All these kind of investments. But also the municipalities have to invest in fields just like education, health, culture, and youth as well. And this type of things brings us to that are the municipalities capable to invest all these type of things. So we need government's trust, but also EU investments money more and more in the future. And my last message is that our Mayors Forum, Arctic Mayors Forum, can bring real value to bringing together partners to join actions in the national level, in our governments, but also EU institutions should bring attention to our work, to our people needs and our duties, what we are dealing. And in my report, in a committee of the region, I did 32 proposals how we could solve problems in EU level and bring the better future in Arctic area.
Thank you. 32 recommendations. So we have some work to do. I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully we can take up some of those issues when the Committee of Regions comes north to Kiruna in a couple of months' time. And I want to turn to you now. We've heard about some of the cities, the big cities in the Arctic, but you are mayor of a very large territory, 62,400 square kilometers, with around 7,000 inhabitants. Tell me, what is a day in the life of the mayor in your municipality like, and why is cooperating across the Arctic important for you and your citizens?
Thank Betty. Jeg vil nu snakke dansk, fordi jeg er altid bange for at udtrykke mig forkert på engelsk. Så har jeg sat vores kommunaldirektør med til, at hun kunne oversætte for mig til engelsk.
She's going to speak in Danish because she's afraid of miscommunications in English. And that's why I'm here.
Først vil jeg sige, at jeg er meget, meget glad for, at vi endelig har fået sådan et arktisk forum, Mayo-forum, fordi vi har en fælles interesse. Vi er en arktisk sted, hvor vi har manglet en interesse sted, hvor vi kan snakke om vores fælles interesse. Og jeg er virkelig glad for, at jeg kunne være her i dag, hvor man også åbner en kontor for arktiske borgmestre her i Tromsø.
She's very happy, pleased to be here at the opening of the secretary. Very happy that there's a forum where they can exchange ideas and challenges. Glemte jeg noget?
En af mine interesser er også at ligestillingsspørgsmål, og jeg kunne se, at borgmestrene, der er kun én mand til stede, og jeg tror, at vi har en fælles, hvad skal jeg sige, nat, med at der, hvor man arbejder med folk, nær folk, det er jo borgmestrene. Og jeg kunne se, at vi stadigvæk har den her kultur med, at det er kvinder, der tager sig af folk og børn og gamle. Men tak, Kona, at du er med her.
One of Anna's interests are in gender, and she's very happy to see that there's at least one male present, because because usually when you find yourselves in positions like municipalities, which is very close to the citizen, it's usually more female-oriented.
Betty, du spørger om, hvad jeg er glad for i dag. I dag er jeg meget, meget glad for vores nye projekter, som er i gang sat nu. Vi er på vej til at arbejde med mere turisme i vores kommune, og vi er interesseret i at opstarte en bæredygtig turisme. Vi har lært meget af vores naboland Island med deres overturisme, hvor de nærmest glemmer deres egen indbygger. Så vi er i gang med at lave et projekt i samarbejde med vores nabokommuner. Og lige nu der arbejder vi med at lave et naturpark, er det sådan, vi kalder det?
Nationalpark.
Nationalpark. I håb om, at vi kan styre meget mere turisme, der kommer ind i landet sammen.
One of the current projects Anna is working on in Qaqortoq is establishment of a national park to try and harness some of the sustainable tourism that is happening right now in Iceland. So there's a cooperation between Qaqortoq and Qaqqada about making a very large national park, which is a part of her everyday life right now, to try and make sustainable tourism grow.
Og så har vi jo også snakket mange år om, naturændring,
Klimaændring.
klimaændring. Faren ved klimaændring. Jeg synes, det er på tide, at vi begynder at snakke om, hvad kan vi få godt ud af klimaændringen. Af nye erhverv, hvad kan vi starte op på baggrund af, at vi har klimaændring. I Grønland, der går vi meget, meget op i miljøvenlige aktiviteter, blandt andet vandkraftværker. Og lige nu, der arbejder vi med at have den første vandkraftværk i vores kommune. Så Grønland kommer til at være dækket af vandkraftværk, sådan 70-80% af vores forbrug af el og varme.
The municipality has been working on aiding the national government in the water power plant in Qasigiannguit, and it has just been funded and will be start producing in 2 years. So all of this focus on environmental and green energy has worked out in Qaqortoq at least. When the project is done, Greenland is going to be 70 to 80% on renewable energy.
Og det kunne være meget, meget interessant at have en udveksling omkring disse. Der er jo også, man kan jo oprette nyt erhverv ud af det. Printproduktion, ammoniakproduktion, og sådan noget, som kunne være nyt ud i verden til det grønnere miljø for fremtiden.
I don't have the words for Brent, but Ane is seeing some basis for knowledge exchange in this turn to renewable energy in Qasigiannguit that could be discussed between the mayors.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think, Anna, what you've really highlighted is just how many of the issues that our mayors deal with on a daily basis, and that we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to open the discussion now. We have quite a lot of time for some discussion with our mayors. So for those of you in the room, I'm taking hands. But actually, we have a question from one of our online participants. And I know Jenny's actually in the room or in the building somewhere. But Jenny Turton from Arctic Frontiers would like to ask this question. Many incentives for people to move north and stay north are related to families and children. But what about single young people who are struggling to afford rent and living in such expensive locations on only one salary? And this is a really great question because we have a lot of, as we mentioned, universities and in northern cities, and also a need for labor. So who would like to take this question first?
I can try.
Sure.
For us, we have a project which we call Nurse for our own apartment. How are we going to manage that? Then we have to discuss the government and the municipality and maybe the university have together to discuss how we manage that. It's the finance. We have to do it in another ways because the apartments in Tromsø is very expensive. So we have to do it with we have something we call House Bank in Norway, which I have a meeting in 2nd of January, I think, and they have a lot of thoughts how we're going to manage that. And we have to discuss with the government, the House Bank, and the municipality. Everybody has to have this company give something to manage that.
Excellent. Mary Louise, you wanted to jump in.
We have a big discussion in the whole Europe or in the world about the demography. There is the women are not having any children anymore. In Italy, I think it's every woman is having 0+ 0.7 children. That means that we haven't enough with the people living where we are, if we are living in Italy or here in Tromsø or in Umeå. But we are a city in Umeå which has been growing since 1965 when we have got our universities. So we have doubled up the inhabitants. And the Nobel Prize winner, a woman in chemistry, she was working and studying and researching in our city. And the first question she got when she was the Nobel Prize winner was, why did you stay in Umeå? And do you know the answer? As a researcher, I can be around the world. But I was searching for a place where I can walk out from the researching to culture, to leisure, to have a green area around me, and to the open-minded people. Because if you're a researcher, or if we are going to develop for the new green community, which we have to, we also have to have the diversity with people. And people can move very quickly to other places, but they are not moving away from a good place to live on. That's why it's the clue of the future. We have to work in a broader way as mayors and as the cities.
Thanks for that. Ida.
Yes, thank you. I think I have maybe a similar story, but the other way, because we had one of our young women living in an island with 14 other peoples in our municipalities. And she said, everybody's asking why everybody's leaving. Nobody asks us who are staying, why we are staying. And maybe we have to do that, ask more of those who are staying in the Arctic, why they stay or why we stay. And I'm sure the incentives for young families and children to live here and to make good lives here is very important. But still, it's a good question, because we have to ask, what do we do for the young people between these life stages? And I think universities, education is very important. We know that university cities are important for people staying in the Arctic and for exchange in the Arctic and people coming here. And we also had to talk more about the good jobs we could have here. There's so many exciting jobs we can do here, and so much to do. And you can really move the Arctic if you live here and work here. And in Bodø, we are going to be European Capital of Culture next year, inspired from Umeå, who has been, and also working together with Oulu, who is going to be in 2026. And we say that we are moving from cold to cool. And I think that's maybe something we have to talk more about. How do we move this area from cold to cool area? And I think culture is very important. People need culture. We need something to live for. And we need something that the pulse can, the heart can be beating for. So I think education, universities, jobs, and culture is very important things to talk about and to bring out to people, and also to the young people living in the Arctic, telling the good stories, because there are so many of them.
Yeah. Ulla Kirkesa, you wanted to jump in.
Yes, thank you. The very similar things like Ida said earlier. So I think that when you are a young person, you have to have a hope to good life, whatever it is. And many times that you have a good education, possibility to good education, you have a possibility to have a good house, a partner, and of course job. And this is, I think, that some kind of circle. And here in Arctic area, we have long distances. So I think that we have to, as a mayor, do more how we can tackle these problems, because how people and young people can meet each other easier, because it could be quite problematic if the nearest friend is maybe from 100 kilometers. How you can education, how to can get a good education when the nearest university is quite far away, or there is not that kind of teacher you want to, or professional. How I think also that we have quite high prices in our housing. So might be when you are young, that is not easy to find good apartment, and that kind of thing. I think that these questions are very practical, and maybe we have not so much work how we marketing all this, because many times we have, but maybe young persons don't know. Greener is greener in the south part of many times.
Yeah. I know, Mary Louise, you want to come back on a point, but Miria, you wanted to add to this conversation. Do you have an answer to how singles can afford housing in northern cities?
Yeah, this question is pretty huge, but I will tell you about figures about my city, Oulu. Our average age is 39, and we will get 2,000 new inhabitants every year. And in the center is city services, like the other mayors had already mentioned, that we will serve them better and better in the future. If it's youth or elderly people also. But also I want to raise the question about the culture and atmosphere in our north part of Europe and our Arctic area. Like Ida already mentioned, the European Capital of Culture year will bring something soft to our life, because Oulu is famous from ICT technology and radio technology and engineering city background. So we need soft things like culture, and our theme in these 26 years is the culture climate change. And it's something what we do in the culture way, but also in the atmosphere and also in our daily life way as well. The changes which brings people and local people in the dialogue in every day and together as well.
Thanks. Mary Louise, I'm giving you the last word on this question, then I'm going to take another topic from the audience. Go ahead.
Gender, gender, gender. Is it enough?
That's enough. So maybe we can pick back up on that theme. Is there any questions from the audience here today? Oh, lovely. That's great. Yes, go ahead. Here. Oh, Mike is coming. Please say your name and ask your question.
My name is Jannike Folk Andersen from the Norwegian Institute for Water Research. I'm working with plastic pollution, and I've had some desperate phone calls from people working in the municipality saying, we are going to have a plastic strategy. We have no idea what to do. And I'm wondering, is this on the agenda in the Arctic Mayors Forum, and what are the issues specific to the Arctic and the opportunities to implement plastic strategies to get a more sustainable economy in the Arctic?
Thank you. Mary Louise.
Yes, that is one of the big questions now, and we have to handle it, because there are no fishing in the future, no fish, because the plastic is more than the fish in the whole ocean. So it's a big catastrophe. we are trying to work with that also in my city. But I think that is one of the key questions also for the Arctic Mayors Forum. We should talk about it and we should handle about it. So a very good question. Thank you for that, really.
Isa.
We have one of the things we are talking a lot about in the Arctic Mayors Forum is both pollution and climate changes and how we take part in the large debates about it, but also how we bring knowledge about how to work with this at the local plan. So this is topics that we have been discussing, but you know we need to meet even more to get them implemented. But in Bodø, my city, we have been working with the plastic strategy and pollution strategy, and we also have these climate budgets, which we are just in the beginning of. But I think these are questions that we are discussing when we are meeting, and which is on our agenda all the places. Of course, it's so important.
Thanks for that. Anne?
Meget interessant spørgsmål. Vi er i Grønland lige nu, har vi arbejdet på en fælles national affaldssortering eller affaldsselskab kommunerne imellem. Og nationalmæssigt har også nogle unge mennesker, der er medlemmer af Inatsisartut, taget spørgsmål op med plastikspørgsmål eller problematikken, som også er stort i Grønland. Vi er småt begyndt at lave nogle initiativer til at komme væk fra plastikforbruget, hvor vi har næsten alle butikkerne har frasorteret deres plastikposer og erstattet den med måleposer for eksempel. Og man er meget mere opmærksom på, hvor stort en skade plastik udgør til dyrelivet i Grønland. Og vi har sådan en børneråd derhjemme i Grønland, og vi har bemærket, at det er børn, der virkelig tager spørgsmålet meget alvorligt med det her miljøproblemer, man har over verden. Og vi har lige haft diskussion med vores børneråd om plastikproblematikken blandt andet.
Did you get all of it?
Maybe do a short synopsis for us there, Nivi.
Thank you for the question. She's very interested.
Keep talking. They'll catch up.
Okay. Yeah. In the question about waste and sorting out the plastic in the waste strategy, the municipalities, 4 of the 5 municipalities in Greenland have started a company to start sorting these things in fragments. We don't have enough to make a single plastic strategy yet, but it's on the table as a discussion point. And our youth forum, they are very keen on making a more impactful waste strategy with the mayor.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, I think we're seeing these common threads, right, about national strategies really impacting how local people make decisions in their daily lives, and youth also being a really important part of that. So thank you for the question. There was someone else who had a question, so we're going to go to the back, and then I'm going to come to you, Johanna. So just wait for the mic, and then tell us who you are and ask us your question.
Hi, my name is Mario Zagnorio, and I'm a PhD student from Italy, from the Italian Alps. So a lot of things that you said resonated with me. My question was about dialogue with citizens and conflict management in a sort of way, because I guess that not everyone might be happy with changes. Industries and business might have their own plans for the future, but might not be the same, or might not be what citizens want, or all the citizens want. not everyone might be happy with more people coming. Other people might be disappointed with people leaving. So how do you as mayors also take care of this issue? How do you dialogue with your citizens about that? How can you plan the future of the Arctic together?
That's a really great question, and it's one that touches on something that we do actually talk a lot about, and that is this idea of migration in and out of our communities. So I have a few people I want to answer this question, but actually, Mary Louise, I really want to see how you guys are dealing with this in northern Sweden. So.
Yes, I can give you some example what we have been working with. 25 years back, we started with a school system with the young children, giving them the overview plan and the detailed plan of some areas which we were building up. So all their fantasy, all their question went into the municipality. And we might, in that time, 25 years back, we made a CD-ROM from what they have been talking about. We have also have an open line with the young people about how they find the real life, not the elder's life, the real life from themselves. And we try to bring that back to the city. We have also had a small group of young people who added questions to the politicians. That is one way. And the other way is that we have been working constantly with culture since 40 years back, and gender questions. And I think that is one of the key questions. You have to deal with these questions with the inhabitants. Because if you start it up with choirs, you are singing, you are in a pop music band or whatever it is, or the theater, you're getting a little bit more open-minded. And then you're not feeling afraid of changes. I used to put the detailed plans in my sofa in the kitchen. And when I was out in the garden, the people knew that I had these detailed plans. So they said, "Hello, can I look at what is happening?" And the people were so curious, and they wanted to be together with you. And after 10 years, I had the open meeting with the people also in both in the library and also at the cafe. And they said, "Oh, is it true? You did what we were talking about?" "Yes, why not? Because you are the big brain. All the people in the city." That is just one answer. We can meet tonight. I tell you.
I think who would like to go first? So.
I think that Rovaniemi is the place where we have that kind of culture and background that we have used to that people come to Rovaniemi and go. This is a cross place, if I can say so, and maybe it is quite easy. But of course, when you come from to different culture, you have to learn it, and I think that we have a lot of things to do in that field. But I think that they who come, they have the same kind of needs what we all have. We all need, as I said earlier, that education, jobs, and own life, and how to control your own life. And of course, we talk about here with the mayors exactly these things which make our Arctic living better.
How are you dealing with conflict management in Buda, Ida?
Oh, in so many ways. It's so interesting that you're Italian, because when we opened the City Hall a few years ago, we have a we call it Folkeforum, the Forum of the People, or as I said in the opening, this is Bodø's Piazza. To have piazzas where people can meet and share knowledge and share ideas and getting to know what we are dealing with is very important. And I think one of the the really smart things we have to do for the future is bringing in people in these debates. And one of the questions we have to ask us is how do we reach to those who doesn't show up on the piazza or in the library or at a concert, but all those who are kind of quiet in these debates. And I think when we are getting them more in the debates and in the discussions, we will have a better society. So that is one of the questions we right now are working a lot with, both in the European Capital of Culture project, but also in the municipality at all. For example, in area planning, we want to hear those voices who aren't heard during the ordinary progress for the different cases. So that is one of a very relevant question, and I think those who have the key to how we bring everybody in these debates, they really are having a good business idea or something.
Absolutely.
But making more piazzas and maybe also realize that no questions are too small. All small things which people are dealing with in their everyday life, where the bus goes, where you can have the closest store, all these things are important for how we live our lives for the future. But maybe we sometimes think that we have to have the big questions to debate, but we can debate everything. So, yeah, inspired from Italy.
I love the idea of Arctic piazzas, especially after a couple of years of being inside. I think this is a really great question to help us sort of get back together and meet and talk about what's on our heart. So Gunnar, what's on your heart?
The question is, somebody discuss when we're gonna be 100,000 in Tromsø. In 1984, it was 47,000. In 2005, it was 62,000, and now we are 77,000. And that's the big question, because we need to have a sustainable tourism, because the tourism is going like that in Tromsø. It's good, but it's also responsible for the municipality. And from the university, I think it's, when they are finished at the university, 77% stays in northern part of Norway. That's important to understand why. We had the discussion why they stay. That's a very good question, because we always ask why they leave. The big problem for us in northern part of Norway is we're going to have a lot of industry. And the people from Poland not come so often to northern part of Norway. How are we going to manage that? We have discussed we have 6 biggest cities in north. We have discussed how we're going to get more people to northern part of Norway. And we discussed, are we going to Italy and ask them to come to Norway? To Spain, to Portugal? Because some of the people coming from south of Europe, they are very impressed of the northern part of Norway. So maybe we should, with you, have some promotion to the south countries to get them to northern part of Norway. Thank you.
Thanks. Anne, did you want to pop in on this topic? Did you?
Hvis jeg ikke misforstod din spørgsmål, så spørger du om borgerinddragelse.
To clarify, are you asking about borgerinddragelse? Involvement of the citizens in the political processes? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, because I guess that not everyone shares the same opinion about issues.
Everything.
So yes, how to involve citizens, and even the ones that do not maybe agree at the beginning with changes regarding business. think, for example, of Kiruna, the city on the move because of the mine, and not everyone might necessarily appreciate the idea of moving the city because of mine activities, while others might see it as necessary to develop the region. How mayors can include all the views and somehow find a common path to the future.
Og få alle holdninger med.
Ja, altså i Grønland, der tager man borgerinddragelse meget alvorligt. Vi er nu begyndt at tænke på en ny måde, og hvordan vi kan borgerinddrage mere spredt interesser. Vi har sidste år for et børneråd, hvor børnene selv kom, eller
We are very involved. We really want the citizens to be involved in the processes in all of Greenland. The difference in Qaqortoq is that we've had an election among children. So everyone from 6 to 17 could vote for a representative in this council of children.
og de går meget op i. De gør ligesom os voksne, når vi er ude på vand. Og så de hænger plakater, og de hænger deres budskaber, og så er det rigtig mange børn, der går op og vælger den dag, de skulle vælge.
It was an interesting process. These kids, they were just as involved in this election as the grown-ups were. They had billboards and political speeches for other children. Yes.
Mm. Og vi er i gang med ældreråd nu, som er samme princip som børneråd.
And now we're going to start the Council of Elders, and they're going to be 60 plus.
Mm. Og når vi er også i gang med en lave de næste 10 års plan med kommunen, og vi skal inddrage befolkningen alle steder, i alle bosteder, de næste halve år.
The strategy, the 10-year strategy from the municipality has been begun, and we're going to have hearings across all of the municipalities, all 8 places of residence, where everybody will be invited to open debate.
What a great model. I love that. I think that that's a best practice we should have across our mayors in the Arctic Mayors Forum is kids elections and get them on social media. Mary, I'm going to turn to you for the last word on this question.
Yeah, I fully agree that we need more opportunities to citizens to participate. But I'm pretty sure that all the mayors we are visiting at school, in companies, in a local people's places where they are doing and gathering something, and that's something to meet face to face and have the opinions straight, and I hope we will do that work in the future as well. But in Oulu we have this the youth council, and they have own budgets, and they can decide what they want to build or to do in Oulu city. And also we have the local in our city, the part of small councils to local people, and they have involved budget as well. They can decide every year what they want and what they need.
That's great. Thank you for that. Johanna, you had a question, so we'll just grab the mic right up here in the front. So just tell us who you are and ask us your question.
Thank you so much. My name is Johanna Ikävalko, and I'm the director of the Arctic Center, University of Lapland. And I've been making here some notes and having my thinking cap on, and I'm convinced that not only the cities but the communities in the north, they need to have a joint voice of the north. And in order to tackle the current, but also the near and far future questions of the communities that there is, not least the climate change. I'm in charge of research and science, so I don't go to any political issues or policies or stuff, but I can, of course, we can support our help. The research community can provide its help for making wise decisions. Now, in order to have a common understanding of what we have ahead and how to tackle these questions, and also in order to do some lobbying, not only to the EU but general, we need to have this joint voice of the North. And we have the Arctic Mayors Forum, we have universities like the Arctic 5 network, and then we have very active business life in these northern communities. How do you think that we could best provide this joint voice of the North, and what could this joint message actually include? What kind of key questions and topics? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Well, folks are sort of putting up their hands for me. I would just say that the mandate of the Arctic Mayors Forum is quite broad. And so we ourselves are going through a bit of a strategic planning phase to really think about what the long-term goals are for the organization, but also breaking those down into smaller steps so that we can actually have some impact. So we are, like many in this turbulent time, sort of doing a bit of a think about where we want to strategically work. But much of that is informed by what, of course, our mayors are dealing with at their local level. So with that, Mirja.
Thanks. Thanks for the question. We have done a lot of homework during the last year, and we wrote a North Agenda program, and we Oulu city called relevant northern Finnish stakeholders together. For example, Rovaniemi city and regional councils, chambers of commercial in the commercial companies, associations, and local people as well together. And we joined and wrote our future plan. What kind of opportunities and also problems we are solving in the near future. And we have a parliament election this April, and our aim is to proposing a Northern Agenda to be document in the next government's program, what involving growth, security, and cooperation. And this is a really good plan to cooperate with northern Finnish cities, municipalities, and our partners. But also, I will call you, mayors, to join this document, because we need also, of course, our national governments work, but also cross-border cooperation in all kind of issues, what I'm not going to mention, but there is huge opportunities, but also we try to focus on future plans, what is coming, the investments, but also the security problems and growth, to help the growth in our cities and our countries as well.
Thanks for that. Marie-Louise.
Yeah, we have also in Sweden had a special person who has been working with the northern part of Sweden about industrialization and so on, and the climate questions. But I think one key question is, because we have to spread a lot of good examples between each other, but the key question is, why are we so shy? Why shouldn't we put in the central part, the Arctic area, and the other one is circling around. We have had for 100 years a north-south way of thinking, but we also have to think east-west. So I think if we are not shy, we put on the agenda what we are good in, because it's the Arctic area is not only a spatially populated area. It's an area where a lot of good researching is, good of innovations, an growing industry, growing people with good ideas. And the democracy has to stand on that. We shouldn't accept that everything is talking about outside the Arctic area. What is happening here now. That's why we have to put it as number one on the agenda, and let's start from the bottom up.
It's a great message. Thank you for that. Ida?
Yes, I think Marie-Louise said some of it, but I think that yes, we need a common voice, but we also need to have this democracy areas and arenas to discuss, to have the discussions. We shouldn't be so afraid for the debate. There are different and big questions, but we have to take the debate. That is what democracy is about. And I think that's very important to hold to job for. So take the debates and I think that we as mayors in the Arctic region are used to it. Mm-hmm. We are used to big questions, difficult questions in area planning, in welfare planning, in everything we do. Our everyday life is about discussing the large problems, but we have to take the debates, and we have to develop democracy at the same time. I think that's very important. So that's why it's so interesting with the kids and youth perspective in this, because we have to start somewhere. And if we can agree about what democracy and is about, then I think it's easier to have common voices in the large questions.
Absolutely. Gunnar, do you want the last word on this?
Yes. The voice to the south is energy, clean energy. How are we going to manage that? We have a big discussion. Industry in Sweden, Kiruna, Umeå, Luleå, they need electricity, and they need a lot of power for this industry. The same in Mo i Rana and in Tromsø. So we have to discuss how we manage that. And we have to manage it with offshore wind and wind. And that's very difficult in this area, because the nature, the Sami people, and the fishing industry for offshore wind. But that's the big question, how we're going to manage this part of the world. Thank you.
Thanks. Are there any other questions from the audience? Then we have one last one from online, and I think that this is a great way to conclude our discussion. So climate change is a risk and a challenge that you all deal with on a daily basis. And for those of us who live and work and choose to be in the Arctic, we also see those impacts. But can you each kind of give me one thing that you are doing in your municipality to respond to the biggest climate risk that you're seeing in your municipality? And I'm going to go from this end right down the line. So this is your last word.
Yes, in Bodø we are doing the city planning for the future and for the for meeting the climate changes. And I think it was an eye-opener for us when we had to plan the city in a new way, because we are moving a fighter base and something to south, and then we started to plan for climate changes in another way than we have been thinking for many years. But there is question about it, and that's not all. I'm not sure that we are ready for the fast changes we have to do in energy, in city planning. So we have to kind of work together to make it fast enough. So, but city planning is
City planning and sharing best practices. So, Ulla Kirsa.
I think that maybe if I have to say one, how to keep Arctic region actively inhabited, how to give that kind of services that different backgrounds people can live in the Arctic area.
Great. Mary-Louise, do you have some thoughts on climate activities and
Democracy.
democracy?
We have made a lot of decisions how to change about the energy and the street planning, city planning, all of these, a lot of decisions. But democracy, trust is the key question.
Right.
Because you have to make it very fast now.
So really translating those national decisions into the local level takes a lot of trust and conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's democracy.
That is, yes. Gunnar.
Yes, I think I've talked to more than 10 ministers about the hub in Tromsø, which is called Grøtsund. There we're going to be a hub for offshore wind, ammoniac, and hydrogen. This hub is very important for the climate in northern part of Norway, and all of Finland and Sweden also.
Great. So renewables coming to Tromsø.
Yeah, next year.
Next year. Miriam.
It's so difficult to just pick one pledge to how we are handling this climate issue, because we have so many companies who are in top of those processing in energy, in recycling area and so on. But one message to our citizens is that we are promising to keep Oulu the world winter cycling city in the future, and it means that we are building a lot of new cycling paths and roads. We have more than 1,000 kilometers cycling paths this time, but a lot of panas and good shapes of cycling roads in the future.
That's great. Anne, over to you.
Ja, spørgsmål fra dig får mig lyst til at sige, at min interesse at være med i Arktisk Maya Forum er, fordi vi er, altså især også fra Grønland, vi er så tyndt befolket, men bor i en rigtig stor område, og i de sidste par år er Arktisk område en stor interessant emne i alle store magternes tunger, og vores folkets lød, altså kommunerne, altså vi bliver næsten aldrig hørt. Vi bliver næsten aldrig spurgt, hvad mener I, sådan noget som i Arktisk Råd. Det er kun de store magter, der får ordet der. Og så synes jeg, at det er nødvendigt, at man også kunne samles om vores fælles interesser og kunne sige det fælles ude i verden. Og jeg vil også meget ønske, at vi kunne sige noget om krigen, hvordan vi påvirker os enkeltvis i de arktiske byer og bygder. Altså en fælles fodslag, fælles ord som kan markere os, at vi er en befolket sted i verden. Det er min store interesse at være med i Arktisk Maya Forum.
To turn back to your question, this community of mayors that is going to start making the voice heard of this very not so populated areas, vast areas that have common interests on the international scene, and many of the greater powers are starting to be interested in the Arctic, but they don't hear the inhabitants, and these are the representatives of the inhabitants. So that's why we're meeting, and that's why we're trying to make a voice heard.
Thank you for that. I have the very difficult job of trying to sum up what has been an extremely fulsome conversation, but I think that we have a few key words that we can take away from today, and that's trust, democracy, the importance of education, sports, culture, conversation. And the purpose of this session was really for you to get to know us a little bit better. And I would just like to thank my mayors that are on the stage with me here today. I think your passion and dedication for these things has really come through today. And they will be here all day around the conference. So please, if you have anything else that you would like to discuss with them or with me, our doors and phones and minds are definitely open. So thank you very much. Please join me in thanking our panelists.